Hello and welcome. My name is Rondy. I'm responsible for all cloud ERP applications development at Oracle. Joining me today, we have Matt Bradley, who is my counterpart running EPM apps development at Oracle for many years. So we have lots and lots of great excitements in the customer community this year and lots of mega go lives. And I'd like to actually share with you some of the exciting news there. Two of the largest global banks in the world just went live with the Cloud General Ledger Cloud Financials, one in Australia and one in the US. Now, two largest US supermarket chains also went live with full cloud ERP, replacing some of the legacy systems. And one actually went live in January, and then one just went live this month. The largest logistics company in the world also actually went live. After 5 phases of the project, they have brought together 83 countries totally live on our cloud ERP. And they are still continuing going on very, very strong. Last but not least, the largest telco in the US also actually went live with the Cloud General Ledger in the beginning of the year. The list keeps going on and on across many different industries, geographies, and different sizes of customers. Now, this brings us to a total of more than 6,400 customers who are live on our cloud ERP, out of a total of roughly about 8,200 customers. Now, this is really a data point about how important and how urgent our customers are treating their transformation and innovation with the SaaS technology. And we're really, really excited to partner with all of these customers with basically this digital transformation journey. Now, Matt, you and I have been talking to hundreds of CFOs and CAOs and CIOs over the years, and always around the frame of a digital finance transformation with the SaaS technology. Can you tell us a little bit about what these chief executives are looking for?
Sure. Congratulations on the go lives. It's tremendous news. What we're really seeing is it's really a journey. And a lot of the customers really start fairly small and simple. It's really about total cost of ownership, retiring technical debt, not investing in on-prem upgrades or hardware, et cetera, anymore, and trying to leverage the advantages that SaaS can bring. And then we start to see them leverage SaaS as somewhat of a change agent internally. The ability for them to simplify their existing processes, to right-size them for future-proof them if you want, to standardize them globally, so there's one way to work and operate, and then to introduce a lot of automation to gain just general efficiencies. But we're starting to see them starting to innovate, starting to get much more aggressive in terms of where they're going and being able to turn the crank, if you want, in terms of their business agility more so. And I'm sure that's something you've seen from your customers too.
Yeah, clearly we're seeing a number of trends going on beyond just simplifying, standardizing, and automating, right? First, we're seeing a lot of customers expanding rapidly across multiple different organizations as they build up the confidence and successes in the early phases. They're expanding even faster and bigger than ever before. And I've also seen a lot of customers really actually expanding their footprint. Some of the functions that they never actually were even contemplating to use because it's now on the same platform. Now they have an opportunity to try it out and then basically use it at a very low incremental cost, right? Now, but what is even more exciting is many of the customers who have been live for a little while, 1, 2, or 3 years, now they are looking at even more opportunities to optimize all the manual procedures that are still remaining in the system and trying to actually look for different ways to leverage the systems in ways that they've never thought about before, right? Building even more reports and trying to drive more automation with the new functionality. And the last thing that actually is really becoming a best practice there is the continuous innovation by really looking at all the ongoing innovations coming through these quarterly release updates. Many of these things are things that they were never actually even paying attention to, but they're starting now because now it's a quarterly release cycle with lots and lots of capabilities. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that you're seeing customers really actually, while they're adopting SaaS, many of the different business changes, how are they actually managing the business changes as well as the SaaS adoption in particular?
One area that we have seen quite a lot of activity is that once you get the fundamentals right, you can now set yourself up for increased M&A activity. You can close your books faster. You can consolidate your numbers more readily. And then we're seeing quite a lot of interest in organizations with this simplify, standardize, automate, is get that efficiency so they can absorb newer businesses quicker and faster. But we not only see it in the inorganic kind of growth opportunities, we see it in the organic growth opportunities. Once you've established the sort of business agility, you get into strategic agility. What are potentially the new business models that you may put in place? Maybe it's a shift away from product orientation to service orientation. And that brings it with a new set of challenges and complexities. How do you book the revenue? How do you actually recognize the revenue? How do you provision the activities? How do you report against that particular piece? And by having a fully integrated platform on a consistent data model, we provide the capabilities for customers to take advantage of that and pivot if they need to, if the business demands that.
Matt, you and I actually constantly being asked about, hey, how do you actually come up with all these different innovation ideas? Where do you get all these ideas from? Tell us a little bit about the methodology there.
We do source quite a lot of features every year. I believe there's over 1,000 that we've done across ERP, supply chain, and enterprise performance management. And what we've done, both our teams, is really transformed. We needed to become agile. We needed to sort of move away from the traditional model of the on-premise, where we did a major upgrade every 3 to 5 years, and really move to this continuous innovation that you mentioned before, this quarterly release cadence that we put in place. And that requires us to have a much more engagement with the customers. And it's really listening to the customers, really trying to understand exactly what they need and what they want. And we see a variety of models that we've put in place, different channels than what we used to have. Customer Connect is a great example where we get the ideation coming through from the customers. They're explicitly telling us, here's what we need in the product. And we go forward and put that in place. Some of it can be from direct integration that we have during implementations. We're explaining our roadmap, the customer's explaining their roadmap, and we're finding a match in terms of this feature is coming in the next quarter. Maybe you should change the implementation process appropriately, accordingly from that particular standpoint. But we also have this implicit education, if you want, this feedback loop that we're getting from all of the telemetry information, from all of the activity that our customers are doing in the cloud. We're listening to those signals. How often do they use a feature? What's the performance like when they use a certain feature? And then we're gathering signals from that and actually adding that into the products themselves where we can do optimizations, et cetera, from that standpoint. In addition to all of that, we are the eyes and ears for our customers too. We're looking at the horizon. We're seeing what's happening in the business, in the various industries. We're looking at regulations and change. We're looking at innovative technologies and where we could apply that to processes that exist inside of these our customers, and then adding that into the mix as well. So there's a lot of innovations from a variety of different areas. I think it's all predicated by this partner relationship that we're looking to have with the customers so that we can work in tandem and have the customer really at the center of all the innovations we do, regardless if they tell us explicitly, regardless if it's market-driven. We'll have them involved in previews and ongoing sessions in order to refine and tune it. But it's one thing to develop all of these, Rondy, as you know well. It's another thing in managing that change. And maybe you could talk a little bit about how do we make this consumable for customers so they can grab these innovations and move forward at that pace?
Everything is becoming a lot more real time, right? The partnership and kind of basically all the things that we're doing are directly relevant to kind of how they're using the system, and we're doing that proactively. And sometimes kind of basically customers are able to connect with many of the product managers and product expertise almost real time online, right? That's never possible before. Now, it is great that kind of we got all that partnership. But also is extremely important is how we bring to them all these innovations in a way that they can consume and adopt easily. And this is what we have been working on, really trying to perfect the process over the last few years, is really bring all these innovations to them in a very incremental and non-disruptive manner. And that's how kind of many years ago we started this quarterly release cycle where we're bringing to them not just kind of basically all the changes that you expect automatically, kind of we dialed in and performance optimize, we upgrade your data center and your infrastructure. For example, kind of we've been upgrading our customers to OCI Generation 2 with much better performance, scalability, and security capabilities than the first generation. And we're still in the process of doing that, right? And not to count kind of basically all the different versions of different technology stacks, security changes, and all that. All that that the people actually had to manage in a very expensive way and not very frequently before on-premise. We're doing that incrementally and automatically for them, so they don't have to worry about any of that. Now, beyond the technology stack, clearly there are lots and lots of great functional features, like what you said, right? Last time I looked at that, about 60% of the features came from customers' feedback directly, right? And then, of course, there's some market-driven stuff in there. But how do we actually bring to them in a way that is not going to disrupt them if they are not ready to adopt those capabilities right away through every single quarter? So the way that we've been doing that is having a very straight opt-in model. So opt-in means that you're not going to be affected at all if I actually don't have time or kind of don't have the interest on those functionality after the update. The system will perform exactly like it was before the update, okay? Then when you are ready on a periodic basis, you can review the content, and because like what I mentioned earlier, people are starting to get into the practice of leveraging all those release content and try to understand what is relevant to them. And then you explicitly turn it on in your test environment, try it out, and then when you're ready, you actually bring that to your users with the appropriate change management cycle and policies of your company, right? So it's a much easier way for you to consume. As a matter of fact, when we talk to a lot of different customers, and we look at our data points as well, this quarterly incremental release cycle, the disruption is, as a matter of fact, actually, contrary to what people would think that actually you update less frequently, it will be less disruptive. And we have proven throughout the years that actually doing that in this quarterly release model with the incremental changes is way better than doing every 6 months or every year. And as we talk to our CFOs and CAOs friends, they are telling us they always want to spend more time on supporting their business to become true co-pilots of the business, supporting them to make opportunities and decisions in a way that is driven by current real-time data. And let's spend less time on actually managing the more mundane transactional processing or close that kind of activities. And we have been focusing on creating our roadmap and vision around 3 main things. Now, first of all, touchless operations. Really try to make sure that everything end-to-end is automated by machines with minimum manual interventions, right? And the second thing is getting people the latest and greatest information about what's going on with the business so that they can actually use your EPM capabilities to predict as well as drive different scenarios and models with all the great capabilities that you have in EPM. And of course, we also spend a lot of time focusing on user experience, how we actually bring user experience to the next level. It's just not the look and feel. Clearly, we spend a lot of time improving and making it more consumer user experience, but leveraging things like collaboration, things like digital assistance, conversational experience to make the entire experience more modern and closer to what people use in the consumer world, right? So all in all, these are basically the driving priorities for both of our organizations for many years now. Very excited about that. Now, let me tell you some of the exciting things that we're doing in the core ERP on automation. I've been talking about intelligent document recognition. We have this machine learning-based recognition engine that actually can ingest images or PDF files or any formats for that matter, so we can automatically create transactions like expenses or invoices and so on. We are refining that, we're expanding that to many, many different document types. For example, journal entries, enterprise journals, all of things around receipts and so on and so forth. We're improving the way that we derive account combinations. When you go into a transaction screen, you have to actually specify your legal entity, cost centers. And a lot of times we can derive that intelligently using machine learning model to derive that based on context, so you can actually save yourself some time and avoid mistakes because we default correctly for you, right? Now, tell us a little bit about all the great stuff about all the AI activities that you guys are driving.
Absolutely, yeah. We're very excited about this. It's been a bit of a journey. We started off with predictive planning a couple of years back, where we could look at your history and correlate that to an algorithm, and then use that algorithm to forward project. But there's nothing like a global pandemic to really mess up your history, where that's not always a good predictor in terms of where you want to go. And so we've had to leverage more machine learning so we can learn on the fly and understand those changes in the data, and then once that data changes, have that be reflected in the resulting outcome. So we're in the process of releasing insights. And what insights are really trying to look at 3 key patterns in the data. Is there anything like forecast bias? So we've got a forecast and you've got your actuals, and you may find out that somebody is always very, very positive, but the actuals always come in less than. On the converse, somebody could be extremely negative, but the actuals always come in ahead of the forecast. And if we can net that out with a much more accurate forecast, we can free up capital in order to do more interesting things for the business as a whole. So it's an area that we're really trying to drive that forward. We're also looking at differences between a machine-generated forecast versus a human-generated forecast, and at least having the conversation. What does the human know that the machine doesn't know, so you can again reflect and more accurately project the forecast that you're actually going after. And the important thing with the machines is that we're seeing organizations need to increase the frequency of forecasting. Due to the constant disruption in the business, it's no longer good enough to do this quarterly. You may have to do it monthly, and in certain industries, we may be down to a weekly forecast. At a weekly level, you can't do data input aggregation in order to generate your forecast. You have to do machine generation and react to the generation and do judgment across that. And that's really a lot of focus in terms of where we're going and what we're really trying to do and achieve with some of the machine learning that we've done. The other area that we have spent a little time and energy in, and again, it's born out of the pandemic to a certain extent, is in the scenario modeling space. Where you may want to, well, in the past, we would have looked at a longer time frame. Here's the strategy for the organization. Here's potentially organic growth opportunities, M&A, when you should structure a deal, not structure a deal, and looking at uses of cash and debt, et cetera, et cetera. In the pandemic, we've seen that shift to what we call crisis planning. So instead of planning over 15 years, let's plan over 15 weeks, but do it with an integrated set of financials. Understand exactly what is our cash position, where will we be, will we have enough to survive, assuming revenue has dropped down dramatically, what projects we can delay so we can free up capital, et cetera. And we've seen a lot of companies really leveraging that to get a good handle on the early portions of the pandemic. Once they've sort of shifted out of that model and into the growth model again, they're starting to look at multiple scenarios. Which channel is going to be more important? Which geography may be more important in terms of opening up faster than others? And mixing and matching all of those together with organic growth and inorganic growth, and having a holistic view of their business. So they have a risk adjusted and much more control over where they're going and what they're trying to achieve. So it's been a very exciting time in this space to really leverage those new innovations and new technologies to deliver improved functionality over what we could have done in the past.
Very exciting. Now, you and I have been actually talking about digital assistants a lot, right? Kind of when we first started, frankly, a few years ago, we were actually focusing on mostly the self-service functions like creating expense or kind of basically reporting a time card. And I know that kind of you have actually extended it even to account reconciliation, right? So a lot of things to make it very simple, easy. You don't need to have a professional training about kind of the app. You can interface with the digital assistant, especially the people who are not professional users, but like just casual system users or kind of executives and so on and so forth. Much better, much easier to address. Now, a lot of things that we just discussed is basically decision-making process on the fly. There are lots and lots of different organizations, departments, and roles involved in there. Now, as we see kind of getting into the pandemic, video conferencing and many of the social channels collaboration are becoming more and more prominent, okay? So the digital assistants, we have a slightly different view about how we actually bring digital assistants into the collaboration channels. Correct. So then we can actually facilitate the communication across a wide variety of different organizations and so on. So it's almost kind of to the extent that you can actually ask Oracle to give you some information or perform a simple transaction while you're on a video conference, right? Let that actually to access the information in a very easy way. And we even actually contemplating how we actually bring all that collaboration and even kind of having a digital assistant to summarize the action items and drive status tracking on different things. It's very exciting stuff that we're actually driving. A lot more to come, clearly kind of over the next 6 to 12 months or so. And this is actually a very exciting user experience evolution from there. So in closing, clearly lots of great excitement and achievements from our customer base. The adoption of cloud ERP on the market has never been stronger, driven by business and technology changes. Simplify, standardize, automate, and innovate are really the best practices that we've been exercising and really proven success with many, many of the customers. Now, Matt, Any closing thoughts?
Not just again, to the customers, thank you so much for all of the partnerships that we've had. It's extremely rewarding for our development teams to see our feature functions being leveraged and used effectively by you. So thank you.
Thank you very much.